What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 38 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Chuy Plays.
Bye, goodbye.
What is up, gang? It is a jam-packed week here on Nintendo Noise. Of course, just earlier today, we had our latest Nintendo Indie World event where we got a look at a bunch of hot new indie games coming to Nintendo Switch, some of which we were impressed by, some of which we were not impressed by. We'll talk all about that. But we also have the results of Nintendo's latest fiscal quarter. So that, of course, comes with a ton of interesting little tidbits and data points, as well as some insights from Nintendo's leadership on where they see things going from here. So, gonna be an interesting episode, lots to jaw about. But before that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of May. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smilky Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. If you want to be like those awesome folks and go and show your support, you can head over to patreon.com/flipscreengames and get access to a bunch of perks and goodies, including early access to this show, exclusive access to our podcast, One More Thing, and a bunch of other cool stuff. But if you don't have any money to throw our way, there are a bunch of other ways you can get involved or get some free content. Head over to flipscreen.games for links to our Discord, our email address if you want to write in and be a part of the show, our Twitch channel if you want to catch one of our weekly streams, a bunch of other stuff. So go and, however you choose to engage, we appreciate you and we thank you for tuning in to this week's show. So let's get into it. Nintendo Indie World, it's been a while, or at least it feels like it's been a while since we've had a presentation like this. We got to look at a couple games that we've been, had our eye on for a while, as well as a couple brand new ones. I think overall, I thought it was a fairly middling presentation. I wasn't super impressed by the overall offering as much as I think I would have liked to have been. But, I think the key to any good presentation is, everybody walks away with 2 or 3 things that they're interested in. And I was definitely interested in at least that many games as things that, I really want to keep on my radar. So how did you two feel about it? Steve, you're muted. Chuy, you go.
I felt basically the same, I think a lot of people tend to go into the indie worlds kind of thinking, oh, maybe this is the time we see Hollow Knight. Maybe it's,
because one of them has to be, right? There's that, there's
maybe.
Sports Story. Eventually, we have to see these games. So you go in with a lot of hype.
Don't you feel like those have kind of superseded the indie world at this point, and they're being shown at directs? They're such big games that they're not even being reserved for these, which are focusing on the kind of smaller indie titles you might not have even heard about.
Maybe. But
I feel that way. I feel like it's probably something that's more like, oh, here's a quick update sizzle reel thing that's got maybe one of those indie games in a main direct, but
sure.
Yeah, I go into these kind of expecting to probably find some new games because I think that's how they treat them most of the time. We're going to see a lot of new things from indie developers, and their format these days too has been having the developers on there, or at least somebody from the team on there to present the game in some way and everything. But yeah, I think that's the difference between how kind of people go into it and how they actually play out. But yeah, for me, I keep up with a lot of indies these days, just writing for Patch Magazine and stuff. And even then, there's still a bunch here that I'm like, oh, no idea this existed or what was coming. So I just like to be surprised a bit when I see them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree. It kind of felt like it opened with a bang with Ooblets, and I was really excited about that. I know it's a game that's been very much on our radar because I know Chuy is a big fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you. It felt like it was kind of missing something at the end. We didn't really have that big closing thing that I kind of have come to expect from
Ending
their
on a sizzle reel is always weak. It always feels, to me anyway, I feel like the sizzle reel is always supposed to be the thing before the one more thing. Right? Before whatever the equal or honestly should be better thing to close things out, right? I feel like if they had maybe ended with Ooblets or like another game that was even
Mhm.
more hype than that, like it would have felt like a much stronger presentation.
I agree. I think that's the difference between like sizzle reel and fizzle reel, where you're just like, all right, we're fading here. This is
Damn.
gonna be the end.
That's savage,
So
but I love it.
yeah, and I agree with you though too. Like I think Ooblets would have been a huge announcement to end it off. So for to me it was just like, all right, they peaked early. Like I don't know how it can get any bigger than that type of announcement. So
Agreed.
yeah.
So let's get into. Oh no, do you have something, Steve?
You see, when was the last presentation? I think it was November, right, for the Indie World.
That
And what
sounds
they
right.
ended on. Yeah, I'm sure they ended on something big. Like, I'm sure they've ended on like Oxenfree 2 or something, or they ended on
Was it
Axiom Verge
Omori?
2. It might have been,
I
yeah. I'm
think
not
it was
sure.
Omori.
I
Yeah.
feel like the problem here is they had enough games to fill in an indie world, but I feel like you were missing some of those kind of like tentpole style games. You know, I think there's a few games that really stood out to me, and then a bunch that was kind of like, this could be something for a certain audience, you know, that kind of thing, but not as much that stood out to me. You know, where normally I feel like
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
a good number of
maybe that's
games
like a
where.
pace.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, maybe it's like a pacing problem. Maybe
Yeah.
Ooblets shouldn't have been the opener. Like if they'd saved that, because we kind of know that it's a fairly well-known and big game, and they push that to the end, and they start with one of the smaller titles at the top. That's also, that we've seen before. Like we've seen Card Shark. You could have opened with that. That is a shadow drop, and rather than sticking it in the sizzle reel, people would have come to that excited. Or We Are OFK. People have seen that before, and they could have brought that up the top and spoken about that rather than
Yeah,
opening with
because
Ooblets.
this was the first time they gave that a release date, right?
Hmm.
So yeah,
Well,
that
window, I think, like summer.
sure, good point. Like that could have been the thing, right? To open like, oh, okay, like that's significant. That's a significant piece of news, or maybe you open with like Gunbrella, you know, or another one of the like new games that that I thought had a little bit more shine on it, and then you let Ooblets kind of be that more tentpole piece, but I don't know. I think as much as pacing does matter in these shows, I also think that if it was a poorly paced show filled with like nothing but bangers, you'd notice that too, right? So it's like I think it's probably a little
Yeah.
bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
I think it's probably more of column A, to be honest, 'cause I'm looking at the presentation from last November. Like it ended on Eastward, which we know is a big game that people are
Okay,
really
okay.
excited about. We had Gang Beasts in there, we had Slime Rancher in there, Astroneer, Tetris Effect, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon was announced, Boyfriend Dungeon, Garden Story, Loop Hero. That was a big old
Those are big
presentation
ones,
Yeah,
yeah.
with
that
Yeah.
huge games in.
definitely just feels like it's a higher quality set of
Yeah.
announcements. You know, no disrespect to any of these games, but
Hmm.
yeah, that was kind of where I ended up feeling. But let's jump into talking about some of the specific games. So I know that Ooblets was one that definitely stood out to all of us. Chuy, I know you
Mhm.
have actually played the game since it was in early access and were like a big evangelist for it, like, you know, even years ago now. How are you feeling now that it's finally coming to Switch? Like, is it a game that you're eager to like restart and put more time in, or do you feel like you've kind of gotten your fill of it?
I think I felt like about time. This is the game that I've felt like I've played a lot of stuff on like my Xbox at this point, but every time I play Ooblets, I'm just like, I want to take this game everywhere with me. Like I'm so tired of having to stop and step away from it. Like let me just carry it into my kitchen, let me carry it to bed. I'll take this game wherever. It's so good. So I'd say I have not played as much as I've wanted to because of that, but the time I have spent with it has been great. It's got a lot going on. It's got elements from Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, or like any farming sim types of things, and then Pokemon as well, where the loop is basically, make your life as cute as possible, grow these really cute ooblet pals, and then dance battle it out for glory. It's got a fun. They made a good change, I'd say, like early in development with the battle system. They made it kind of like card based and everything. So as your ooblets level up, you'll unlock new cards, to use and new powers for that. So it's a bit of a, I guess, deck building game in the battles because you'll choose certain ooblets and you're like, oh, these work together really well for just all these battles and stuff. So there's a lot. They keep adding to the game. It's still not. As of right now, the 1.0 version is not a thing. I think that'll probably happen once it comes to Switch.
Yeah, that's usually how they do
Because
it.
they've added enough to the extent that they're actually raising the price now on the platforms that it is on. So when I
Interesting.
got it, it was 25, and I think it's probably around 30 now.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
You see that a lot.
Yeah,
And it's only on Epic, you said, right? Epic Game Store?
and Xbox. So
Oh, right. Okay.
I think they had like a early access exclusivity thing with them.
Well, I know PlayStation don't allow early access games on their platform, and Microsoft has their like early access scheme that they do allow them on, and they're very explicit that this is an early access game. Things might go
Yeah.
wrong,
Right.
Hmm.
and you kind of do it at your own risk.
Hmm. And I don't think Nintendo even has that option at all either.
No.
So
No.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I've been wanting to pick this one up. This is a game I'll definitely grab when it comes to Switch. I think if it was on Steam, I might grab it for my Steam Deck now. But like the fact that it is only on the Epic Game Store, it's like I might as well get it on Switch then, unless there's like any performance issues. But fingers crossed.
I kind of wonder how that'll go. Because I mean the game does like frame rate drops and stuff a little bit on Xbox as I play, but it's not too bad. So I am wondering like, oh, how's this gonna work out with Switch here? We'll
We shall
see.
see. But if it's stable, it's definitely a game I'm very much going to pick up. And
Yeah.
look forward
And
to.
I'll say too, like for it being early access and stuff, I've never run into like anything major that crashes the game at all. So
Good.
like it's been pretty consistently well. But it's been playable. Very solid play sessions out of it.
And you got to imagine, when it comes to the 1.0, it'll probably be more stable. So that's a good sign for sure. So yeah, it sounds like that's one that we're all looking forward to. Dropping in this summer.
Yeah, I can't wait.
No hard date on that
Cannot
one,
wait.
but I think for me,
I wish there was a hard date.
Yeah.
I agree. I think for me, this is pretty easily the game of the show. This is the game I walked away having the strongest impression of. It's the game that I am looking forward to the most, I think, by a pretty considerable margin.
This
Good.
is why I think it should have ended the show. Like, it should have been like
Yeah.
cutesy ooblets coming on, but like, oh, and what's this? And then like cutesy ooblets come on, and it's just like everyone would have gone crazy for it. But
Although
I was
I guess
excited to see it open the show.
we are the types of gamers that are predispositioned to like it, like all
Very
of us
much,
like
yeah.
management games, all of us like Stardew Valley style farming games, at least two of us are
More like cute
Pokemon
things.
fans.
Animal Crossing.
Sure, yeah.
Hmm.
And like creature collecting, right? Checks a lot of boxes for me.
It's a lot of good things rolled into one game.
Can't wait to play it. Stay tuned, I'm sure it'll be one of the games we're talking about this summer. Hopefully sooner than later. Because it's a little quiet right now, which is great because I got a Steam Deck, but
Summer starts like
Totally,
next
like-
month, so
Totally off topic, but a thought came to me the other day when I think you said stay tuned, and you said it again now, and I was just like, how many people listening to this don't even know what that refers to anymore? It's like the save icon being a floppy disk that they don't even realize what it is.
oh yeah.
And it just made me all of a sudden feel really old that those people have never tuned a radio in or tuned a TV
don't
in.
turn that dial.
Don't you turn that
just a thing.
dial. Yeah. I don't know. Well, tune in, everybody. That's what it means.
Now that you mention it, I want to live for at least a little while in the universe that instead of ever making like ketone dialer thing, they just keep the
still
rotary
using
on like
the
a cell
rollers.
phone, like cell phones with rotary dialing.
Your smartphone just has like a dial on the back of it. So next up, we had Batora Lost Haven, which is coming in the fall. What do we think about this one?
I had no comments on this. I thought it was just not for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't
Like a
know.
bit of a mismatch between the cutscenes and the actual gameplay, and I wasn't really 100% sure what
Yeah,
was going on, if I'm honest.
I don't really know what to make of it. Like, I get the sense that it's like, a dungeon crawler, like action adventure style game with like some dialogue choice, which, those are two things I like. Like it could be good, but I don't know. Yeah, I struggled to, I think, like kind of find myself in it. Um,
Hmm.
and then what does the loop really feel like? What am I doing moment to moment? Like what's the game's feel? It felt a little bit nebulous to me. I didn't think it looked bad, but it didn't stand out.
Might just be one to watch. Like, see if the footage comes out and the gameplay or the reviews and it looks really good, then maybe we'll pick it up. But I think for me, it was just it kind of came and went in the presentation. I was very much more excited about what it was what it was sandwiched by, than it being the kind of thing in between.
Definitely agree with that, because the next game on the list was another one that I really liked, that I thought stood out to me, like in design and style, which was Electhead, which is
Hmm.
a like old school style 2D puzzle platformer. It really very much looks like it's like a Game Boy, or like maybe around that kind of era game, because it's like all two
Yeah.
color. Like it's like the
I put in my notes when I was watching it, it feels like it would be really, really cool on the play date, and they could like use the crank and like do some really cool things with it.
sure.
Um,
Although I
I think
guess
that would be a really good
graphically it
fit for
probably
it.
wouldn't work. It's like it's a little bit too detailed for
Yeah, I
that.
feel like it could be. I feel like it could be adapted.
Sure, maybe.
Did this one come out today? Was it Shadow Drop or is it coming out in the
No, no,
future?
no. It is coming out.
I think this one got another summer release window
Yeah,
too.
it got a window.
Hmm.
But
So this might be one that you want to pick up on your Steam Deck then, Pete, because
yeah, I
it
was
is on
gonna look and
PC
see if
already.
it's on Steam actually, because I was like, oh, if I can play it
It
now.
is, yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, maybe I'll grab this one. But I thought this was really, really interesting looking, cute game. Good style. It's made by one person team, which is always a cool thing to see.
Hmm.
But the premise is basically that you play this little robot and you're trying to like return power to the world, and you're in these like big, like cold grayish blue kind of like warehouse settings, and you're using, whenever you touch something, it electrifies it, and for certain things it'll like activate, like like a thing that'll let you like go
Kind of
upward,
runs a
right?
current through it and gives it like the power to move,
Right.
right? Yeah.
And like there's like a spot where it's like there's little electrical walls blocking you, and you need to like be going through level to level and like find the path that you can actually get through without getting shocked, things like that. You can like throw your head to like activate things across the room, and I don't know, it seems like a really fun, tight little game, and one that definitely like especially from its art style, like stuck out to me.
Have you all followed like Game Maker Toolkit's whole project where they were working on their own game?
Mm-mm.
Um, well, it's just
I
this
haven't,
YouTube
no.
channel, talks about a lot of like game development and design and stuff. And the guy behind it's working on their own like magnet themed game. And this one, Electhead, like gave me that same vibe where there's so many similarities as far as like how the puzzles and worlds were built, and in the sense of like, oh, this idea seems like familiar, like I've seen it before, but this one seems kind of better. Sorry, Game Maker Toolkit. But I think I don't know. I like it. I really like the look of the character. I like how the mechanics feel so perfectly like ingrained with like the platforming and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
the
definitely what I'm
theme,
looking
like
for.
the theming of it is very strong. Like I like that the art,
Hmm.
the world, and the gameplay all tell a story,
Hmm.
which is, it's just neat, and it's cool to see a game made by one person like
Yeah.
here on the big stage. It's very, very cool. So yeah, shout out to Electhead. I think it looks really fun, and yeah, if I don't pick it up before the summer on my Steam Deck, I'll definitely have to get it when it drops on Switch.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me this was probably my second or third favorite game behind Ooblets. Like I was really excited
Yeah.
when I saw it. I was like, well, it just seems such a smart concept.
Top three for me for
And
sure.
I'm curious if there's like progression and you unlock those skills of like throwing the head, because it looks like the puzzles are simple at first and it's just like walking and like, oh, I can walk on the side of this platform, and then when I get to the other side, if I jump, it like, so the current disappears and I can fall through the platform, and then it gets like more intense as he like throws the head and stuff and has to like avoid being electrocuted and things like that. So I'm very, very excited about it. Environmental puzzles are I'm a big fan of them, as everyone that listens knows. So I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm definitely going to pick this one up.
I like them if they're platformers. If it's a puzzle
It's so
platform,
weird.
that's fine. But I don't like doing it.
Have you played Portal? Like have you played Portal 2?
I haven't. Got it on my Steam Deck though. It's all loaded up. So maybe
Even
it's
if
time.
you don't, even if you don't have it, it's coming to Switch later this year. Like everyone should have played Portal and Portal 2 by now. Like
They
I'm
gave me
in the
Portal
middle
for
of
like
playing Portal
$1
2.
during a Steam sale once, you know. So I was like, all right, cool.
It's a phenomenal game.
Worth it.
One of these days. So then next up, we got a game called Soundfall. I gotta
Kind
tell
of
you, this one didn't really do much for me.
Yeah,
No?
it's kind of like it gave what was that game where you do everything on beat
It's
again?
Crypt of the
Cadence of
Necrodancer
Hyrule.
and then
Yeah,
Cadence of Hyrule.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seemed like it was going for that sort of thing, but I couldn't tell, you know. I think that's like the
I
gameplay
think
they're
it
going
is.
toward it.
Yeah. I think it's that, but you like pick songs and you do it to a specific length. So like I'm playing this song, and for 4 minutes, we've got to battle an oncoming onslaught of monsters
Yeah.
to the beat of this song for a specific period of time, and I can either do it myself on my own or co-op with friends online. And I like that as a concept. I quite like horde games. I quite
Hmm.
like, I love Salmon Run, for example. And
Kind
I
of like bullet
liked
hell
uh,
types of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I liked Cadence of Hyrule. I thought it was a really cool concept. I love rhythm games in general. I feel like I could really jive with this one. It just depends on the music. If
Yeah,
the music isn't
sure.
good, I'm not gonna like the game. And I've had that problem with a bunch of rhythm games in the past. The music's got to hit. Cadence of Hyrule's music really, really slapped because it was Zelda music. I absolutely loved it. I don't know about the music in this one.
It does feel like your vibe though, right? Like, because it feels like a mix of like it's a rhythm game plus like Diablo plus like,
Yep.
Cadence of Hyrule, and like it's got. I like the style. Like I thought it's got like a real like cyberpunky like magical girl kind of energy, which is cool. Like I like the idea of like the like whole cyberpunk Sailor Moon energy to it. But yeah, I don't love rhythm games, and like Cadence of Hyrule, I think
Madness.
if I was gonna get into one, that would have been a good one for me, and like I could not get into it.
What was the problem with it? Was it just like, it's mad to me? You're a fucking drummer. Like they should be totally in your wheelhouse
Yeah.
that you do it on the beat and you like hit it at the exact right moment.
Yeah, I don't know. It just like maybe it's because I play drums where I'm just like it either feels like too easy usually or like it's like a little arbitrary, right? Where it's like okay, yeah, like this is a beat in the song, but like it's not, I don't know. Like I struggle with it. I really do. And it's not like it's because I can't play them. It's just like I don't get a lot of pleasure out of it,
Yeah. And I guess to some extent, I had a friend who I played a lot of music as well. I had a friend who's a drummer, and we were like, "Oh yeah, you should try drumming on Rock Band." And then we put him on like, the kind of easier medium setting and stuff, and he could not for the life of him do it because he
Yep.
was like, "I just need this to be the drums in the song.
I
Like,
have
let me
the
just
same
play that
problem.
version of it."
Yeah, where like I can only play it on like expert, and like
Mhm.
even then it has to be like a very accurate tab, and if it's not, then I can't do it because it's like I can hear that there's a bass drum here that you're not putting in the track for me to like I can hear it, but it's not on the the timeline, and I'm losing points for playing correctly. You know, it's like fuck that. Like, it's too close, but
the
not
other
close
one, though,
enough.
by like. There was another one by Ubisoft, wasn't there? Where it was meant to be like, oh, you get a real guitar and a real drum kit.
Rocksmith?
And like,
Rocksmith.
yeah, Rocksmith. Have you tried that one? Maybe that's more in up your alley, like, you know, actual drum kit playing.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know. Maybe
Like lessons
I'll just play
and
drums
everything
though.
from people. Yeah, I know.
Play some drums. Yeah.
Some of us aren't musically talented, and we need these rhythm games to make us feel like we are.
Well, there you
I
go.
think that's the real problem.
You have fun with
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So not for me. I didn't think it looked bad, but it just not a game that I really have any interest in. But maybe you'll have to pick it up and let us know, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's actually available today. So go pick it up, buddy. Go buy it right now. We need a review next week. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good. Great. Thank you. Please complete it by next week's show. So then next up, we had a game called Wild Frost, which is set to come this winter. Yeah. Steve, you said, "Fuck yeah, get off the bench." What'd you think about this one?
Oh, it looks phenomenal, doesn't it? Like, genuinely, I don't know, something about deck building games I love so much. This just looks so good.
They're fun.
So good. I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
Did you ever play Adventure Time's Card Wars?
No. Is it good?
Oh man, that was the Adventure Time like deck building game, and it was super cute. It was based on like the game they actually played in the show, or you know, the line where you floop the pig.
Floop the pig.
Kind of thing. Yeah, so this one gave me those vibes, and I was like, yes, I'm here for the art style. I'm here for whatever weird things these cards do, and I agree. This one looks great.
I thought this one looked pretty cool.
I'll be honest with you, Chuy. I've never even seen Adventure Time, so I would have never played the game.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you what, Steve.
I mean,
it's a good show.
You don't have to. Yeah. It's solid.
No, but should I watch that or Bob's Burgers first? Because I can only do one cartoon at once.
You're a monster.
Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, I know. Everyone says that. He keeps telling me to watch Bob's Burgers.
I've been asking him, and it's like not to get too far away from the video game stuff, but this guy fucking kills me. Because I swear to God, like I really try to tailor my recommendations for Steve. Because I know that he is not likely to actually try anything that I recommend, and most of the time that he does, he blows it off. The last television show that I pushed him to watch, he says is his favorite show of all time. And I'm sitting here telling him that Bob's Burgers is my favorite show, and he won't watch it.
Oh, yeah, but Schitt's Creek made me cry so much, Pete. I just don't think I've got the emotional capacity to do that with Bob's Burgers right now.
It's not a cry show.
It just makes you feel good.
It's just good. It's just good.
Yeah.
It's like, what if, I don't know, whatever. Just watch the fucking show, man. You're killing me.
I'm going to.
That's what you say. So, next up, we got Tabs, Totally Accurate Battle Simulation, coming out in summer. Or is it it's Battle Simulator, excuse me. I know this game's been around for a while. Like it's available on Steam and stuff. But I've really only seen it as like people sharing clips, of like, here's this crazy thing that I did.
Like a bit of a meme game.
Yeah, a bit. But it looks fun. Like I definitely could see sinking time into it, especially like if you're somebody who likes like I love that about like RTSs of like building a massive army and then just like shoving them at another one and being like, let's see who survives.
That's so fun.
Like things like that are fun, So I don't know. Like it seems like it is something that might like cater to my interests a bit. I'm not sure though. What do you guys think?
I've seen this floating on Xbox for like it seemingly years at this point, and every time I look at it, I'm just like, oh, okay. I don't really, yeah.
I wasn't too interested in it.
All right, there you go. I'm like a soft maybe, and you're both like, nah.
I'd just go play Age of Empires. I think, like, if I want to simulate battles, and I get this is not the same audience or game at all.
Sure.
I just play Age of Empires.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've got Age of Mythology ready to boot up on my Steam Deck, so yeah, I'll probably.
Not the greatest in the franchise, but
Oh no, it is the greatest in the franchise. Excuse yourself.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It's way better than Age of Empires. They
God.
don't have minotaurs in Age of Empires, Steve.
Yeah, I know, because it's historically accurate.
Yeah, historically accurate. I'm sorry, we talked in the cheats episode about how you like to spawn in cars and run over Romans with it or whatever. So
Okay, yeah, fair point.
you're really striving for historical accuracy here. Anyway, next up we had Gunbrella, which is set to drop in 2023. This is a like action RPG from the creators of Gato Roboto, which was a game that I remember Pixelpar really liked a lot. It was like a Game Boy style Metroidvania where you play a cat in a like a mech suit.
I
That
have a
one.
physical copy of that.
What's that?
I think Pixel got me a physical copy of that game, and I don't think I've played it.
Maybe you'll like it now. I don't know. You're into Metroidvanias
Yeah.
now, but it didn't quite work for me. I think because it was a Metroidvania, but I really like the look of this game. I thought it was interesting. I really like the art style is good, but I think it definitely like does kind of look a little familiar. I've definitely seen other games that have had a similar style, but what I thought was really interesting was specifically the Gunbrella and like the way that it allowed for like a lot of very like vertical movement, and the fact that you can use it to like dash, you can use it to like do a jump and then like slowly descend kind of, with the umbrella. You
Yeah.
can use it as like to go across like zip lines and stuff, and like it seems like it's a lot about creating momentum and then like chaining combos together, which definitely is up my alley. Like it gave me a bit of a Shovel Knight vibe, and y'all know how I feel about Shovel Knight.
And I'll be honest with you, it's had me questioning as to why the shotgun with the umbrella in Splatoon doesn't have this functionality, because I felt like it would be amazing to have that as one of the specials, like zipping around the place and
Yeah,
and doing something like that. I hope they expand on stuff like that in Splatoon 3 and have more unique specials for specific weapons. I feel like they could do a good job with it, but I don't think Gunbrella is one for me particularly. But I am into Metroidvanias now, so maybe. But I feel like I should go back and play some of the beloved ones like Hollow Knight and Ori.
yeah.
And
I don't
things
know
like
that this is a
before I dig
Metroidvania
into it.
necessarily, but it might be. I don't know. I couldn't really tell if it was like a linear platformer or not, but I don't know. I think I want to try that one. I think this to me was in the top 3 as well, in terms of games that stood
Okay.
out and I thought really like left an impression. So take that for what you will. 2023 on that one. The next up, we got another look at We Are OFK, which is now been confirmed to be coming in the summer. This is one that I really don't know what to make of. Like, I don't know. Like, on its face, it seems like similar to Ooblets in the whole, like, oh, this is a Venn diagram of things I like, right? Like, it's about like this indie band trying to like make it. I love stories about music. I love music. It's like a social sim. It's like a sappy, like sad boy game. Like I don't know. Like all of those things like are a vibe that definitely resonates with me. Even like the look and the colors and everything is definitely like interesting to me. But I feel like I've seen this game so many times, and I still feel like I'm not sure what it actually.
It's only the second time, isn't it? Like, isn't this the
No, I
second
think it's
time
been
I've
shown
seen
like
it?
3 or 4 times now. Right?
I don't know.
I don't
I
remember.
Oh, okay.
I feel this is only the second or the third time we've seen it, and I don't know. I like the concept. I died a little bit when they said that it was a weekly episodic thing, and we'd have to download new episodes weekly, and I was just like, oh no, I hate that so much.
Just wait until
I
it's
just want the
done.
whole thing in one hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do, and I just like why can't they just wait till it's finished, right? Just give it to me in like 4 weeks' time when all of the episodes are done. Like I can wait, it's no problem. But I'd imagine they do it piecemeal. So I bet you can buy each episode separately, which is always a real shame because I feel like a bunch of people probably drop off and don't end up fully experiencing the story
Maybe.
and finding out what happened.
But yeah, I think the thing that's been like the issue for me is like whether or not I've seen it 4 times or not. Now you have me questioning it. I feel like I've seen it a lot, and I feel like it wasn't until this trailer where I feel like I actually have an idea of what the game looks like while you're playing it. Because like I've had a lot of questions of like, are these just cutscenes or is this like a stylistic trailer? Like just what is it? What is the moment-to-moment gameplay? And now I'm very much getting the impression that it's like kind of more like visual novel-y, like a little bit of Life is Strange, like that kind of progression through the world, or like Oxenfree or something like that. And I love games like that, and all the other things have been checking boxes for me. So looking at it now, getting a sense that it feels like it's really just like a story-driven game where you make choices and things happen. I think I'm in officially on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a cool look for sure. And like you, I love starting a band or anything with a band. That's my favorite genre of movie. And so I'm like, yeah, maybe this will be cool to check out. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I hadn't seen too much of it. And even if I did, I didn't understand it until, like you said, now too. And yeah, I mean, visual novels can be fun. I like music, so it might be one I pick up.
Yeah, it's definitely one I'm going to keep an eye on. I think if reviews drop and it's generally positive, then I think I'll bite.
Mm-hmm.
So then next up, we got another another game that's like right around the corner. This one's coming in June, so just a few weeks, and it's called Silt. This one, it very much gave me what is it? What's the Play Dead game? Limbo. It reminds me a lot of Limbo in its style, right? The whole monochromatic, making use of shadow and light and everything. The big scary monsters chasing you around. Like, it definitely feels like it has a lot of that game's energy to it, aside from the whole like you can control certain sea creatures and whatnot as like a means of traversal. Like, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like games. Like, I appreciate the like desire to be like, this game takes place underwater, but like, does it ever feel good to be underwater in a video game? You know, like games that are like the entire things about traversing underwater. It's like, it just never feels great.
Subnautica felt alright. Like, I did like how you interact in that game underwater, but the whole goal of that is to then like build a base underwater so you get out of the water. So I guess maybe that's like a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it points for style from me. And cool that it's another like really small team from Bristol.
Yeah, my hometown.
Yeah, cool. Like, you know, like that's all cool. But I don't know. I don't know if it's one for me. But I think it does look good.
Yeah, I like the visuals quite a bit. Definitely the dark kind of, like you said, limbo feeling. I've always liked that. So that aspect of it is nice.
I thought it was cool too. In the dev interview, they were saying how their sound engineer like built an aquarium in his office to like get all of the sounds that like you hear. Like, that's neat. You know, like that's very cool.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if they've got a good story to tell, the game will be good. I don't think it matters that it's underwater. I think that they can pull that off. If your whole game takes place underwater, I feel like you spend hours and hours and hours making sure the controls feel right and they're not floaty and they don't feel off and iffy. I feel like it could be done well.
So you're gonna get it and tell us then.
Oh, I might give it a go. You know, it depends when it comes out, right? It's summer 2022. If that comes out the week
June.
of Splatoon 3, oh, okay.
I see.
Maybe I will then, because there's nothing else in June, right?
No, it's right.
But if it
what are you talking about? You're not gonna play Mario Strikers with me?
No, I'm not playing that game.
It's
Damn.
too bad.
I
Too
am.
bad.
You think I care about football even if it's got Mario on it? No, I don't. My dad tried very hard to get me interested in football, and he did not succeed. And he
This
tried
You
getting
isn't
don't
me
think
to get
football.
Mario
me.
can?
That's not part of the title in the US.
Yeah, it's not
It is
football.
here.
It's strikers.
It's just strikers.
All right. Well, another game that is out today is called Mini Motorways. This one's got like a bit of a like a mobile game kind of look to it. And it's like the whole
Well, I'll be
thing
honest, because
is
it is a
'Cause it
mobile
is,
game.
yeah.
yeah, which makes
It's a
sense.
phenomenal game. It's exclusive to Apple Arcade on mobile. It's the follow-up to Mini Metro. But don't buy this on on Switch. Play it on a device that's like fully touchscreen or with a mouse.
Yeah,
Like it's
but
on Steam as well.
okay, I was gonna say
Like,
if
if
it's
you
on
can.
Steam, but if it's on if you don't have an iPhone, like you shouldn't, then
I
you
think
know.
it's on Apple. I think it's on Android as well. But
Okay.
on the iOS, you have to subscribe to Apple Arcade
Got
in
it,
order to
got
get it. But it's good. It's a really great game. If you like, I still think Mini Metro's better, but Mini Motorways it comes close.
And the whole thing is like about decreasing congestion like on a highway and like making more efficient motorways,
You have to,
know. And,
yeah, you have to be able to allow your city to increase in population every single day, and every single week, and you have to do that by allowing them to get to work. So they'll like the green people want to go from their greenhouse to their green work. The red people want to go from their red house to their red work and back again. And you have like a bunch of devices in order to do it. So you have like bridges and traffic lights and roundabouts or traffic circles, whatever you call them in your country, and they
Both.
go around the place. I know they do. They're two different things, but you people use them interchangeably.
you people. Wow.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay. Just gonna
I mean,
let
this
that one
one,
slide.
I do a lot of driving. I'm from Southern California. I've done a lot of driving in my day, and I can point out all of the reasons why traffic is terrible. And a lot of it is really just like freeway and street design and how all those things come together. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe I should pick up this game and figure this out. See if what my ideas have been about traffic are true. Or, just find out it's a game that's there to mess with you and make it a puzzle anyways. So,
It's more that there is one on Steam. I'll find it because Macaulay watches this YouTube channel, and the guy is a highways engineer, and he plays this game that he does the patterns that they would use in order to do it. There's like a 4-leaf clover that they do for getting on and off and like a highway and
Yep.
stuff, and he'll be like,
Mhm.
"Look, this is how they decrease it and why it works and blah blah blah." So if you're interested, I'll send you the link. Macaulay is fascinated by
Yeah.
it.
I mean, just wait till you get to the point where you're so interested, you're looking at how highways are determined by racism.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Whoosh. It's like, what? I believe you. I'm sure most things seem to be, but yeah, I mean, looking at this, looks like a fun game, but all I think about is how nobody should own a car. So, yeah, give me like Bus Manager 2022.
That'd
I
be
bet
great.
there's one of those. Just go play Mini Metro. It's all about like a metro system. So if you want
There you
to
go.
promote public transport, you can play that version afterwards if you want.
Yeah, everybody should use public transit. That's my Pete real fact for the day. So we also got another look at a game that's very close, Wayward Strand, coming out on July 21st. Before we started recording, Steve, you said this one didn't stick out to you. I was surprised by that because it reminds me a lot of Overboard. Like it's very like much, or like Majora's Mask, weirdly, right? Where the whole thing is about like
Yeah, I think it's the script, right? Overboard. I play that game and I introduced a friend to that game, and they just found it hilarious. And right, playing that game is so funny. The script is hilarious.
yeah.
The concept is funny. Like this, I'm walking around like an old people's home.
It's a
or something.
hospital,
It's just
isn't it?
like, yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, a hospital, an old people's home. It's something like that, right? I'm just like, it doesn't seem very fun to do. Like walking around a cruise ship, that's pretty fun, but like walking around
Steve doesn't
a
want to talk to sick
hospital
people. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I really like the concept. Like I like the idea of taking the kind of like way that Majora's Mask tells a story and applying it to like a a walking sim, choose your own adventure, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if it's one I'm going to bite on, but I definitely thought it looked like a novel concept. You know, I like the idea of like telling a story in real time and encouraging you to have multiple playthroughs where you can make different decisions and experience different things in the game. Like that's a thing I like in games a lot, you know, inherently.
Mm.
So next up, we got another look at Cult of the Lamb, which is a game that's been another one we've seen like once or twice. It's been brewing. We've seen it on a couple stages. Yeah, I don't know about this one. It's another like style of game that I like, but it's not. It's definitely not like really got its hooks in me.
It's not an art style I enjoy. And I know it is for a lot of people, but for me, I look at it and I'm just, I struggle with it.
I like the art style.
Is this one that you're
Yeah.
interested in,
I
Chuy?
know, I know a lot of people do.
I guess I didn't really understand what was happening in it. I was just too distracted by like, oh, I like this little art style. uh, creepy, cute.
So,
That's
so
the
I
kind of
think,
thing I'm into.
I think it's similar to Moonlighter,
Yeah.
where
Okay.
you go off, you collect things, and then you bring it back to your village and your town, and you build it up and you make that better, and you continue that loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a loop that I would enjoy because I know I really like that in Moonlight, and I like town building games. I like upgrading things. It's just whether that battle system works. If it feels nice, if it works well.
Isn't
if I
Arc
like the
System
visual
is this
style
kind
in
of
it.
game too, right? Isn't that the same thing? Maybe this is the wrong crowd to ask
which
that
game,
question.
sorry?
Arc System, it's like an old Square game that just got remade not that long ago. I think it's the same kind of principle where it's like it's a town builder by day, and then you go out and dungeon crawl to like, you know, keep building the town and bring in resources and stuff. Well,
Quite
yeah, I don't know.
possibly.
This is one to keep
I
an
have
eye
no
on,
idea
I
what that
think.
game is.
But I don't know that I'm quite there. The next game we saw, I definitely thought was pretty cool, though. It was another Crab's Treasure, and it is a Souls-like where you play a hermit crab whose shell has been repossessed, and you need to like fight your way to get your shell back. And the whole like, you know, loop is like I forget how many items they said. I think it was like over 50 or something like that. And there's like all these different items you can use as a shell to give you like, you know, defensive capabilities while you get into these like Souls like fights with all these different crustaceans. Which, you know, it's a wacky concept, but I think it looks fun. It's got a cool art style, and you know, of course I'm a Souls expert now, you know, so like I'm ready to
You
dominate.
get 10 hours in Elden Ring.
I mean, how many bosses did you beat on your first try, Steve? You know? Just saying.
I feel like that looking at this though, I worry if it's one of those games that doesn't need to be a Souls-like Tunic. I don't think Tunic should be a Souls-like. I think they should have just made it a Zelda game. And I worry that this shouldn't just be a run around action RPG with cool little shells that you find and collect and use for various different things and solve puzzles and stuff. But I've obviously not played the game because it's not out, so I could be totally wrong.
You gotta just get good, Steve. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. You know, why can't it be both?
I am terrible at video games, notoriously, so maybe I just want them to be easy.
But Elden Ring's your favorite game now.
Yeah.
How do people trust a thing that this man says?
It's why you struggle so much to recommend me things. Because
you're a
I
wild
think I know
card.
what I like. I'm like, I don't like Metroidvanias. Souls games are too hard.
Game of the year the last 2 years.
Metroid Dread's my game of the year, and this year Elden Ring's my game of the year. It's, you know.
You don't make any sense.
People change, I
Yeah.
guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess so. So then we got into a fizzle reel, as Chuy called it. I'm just gonna let this one play in the background, and we can kind of go through and talk about them if we want. None of these really grabbed my attention, if I'm honest. But
Card Shark was the only one which dropped today because I was excited about that from the last time that they showed it. I don't know. I thought it looked like a cool concept.
fair enough.
I liked Cursed to Golf. That seems
Cursed to Golf
I've
looked
been
pretty
seeing,
cute.
Yeah, I've been seeing a little bit of that, and it's like, another little golf adventure RPG type of thing. So I enjoy those.
They had that
Yeah.
one game. It's the first one. It's like one shot. I forget what the rest of it was, but it had like a fairly interesting style. But it was a game that I felt really was underserved by being in a sizzle reel because I felt like I needed an explanation of what kind of game it was.
Because it's been out since
Yeah.
2016 on other platforms, so everyone, I guess they presume everyone knows what it is, and I'd never heard of it until I saw this presentation.
Yeah, me neither. So I don't know. But
But it
you're
had
right.
that same style of Hypnospace Outlaw, and I was like, "What is this? Is
Sure.
this that new game that they've announced?" And I went back and had a look at it. I was like, "No, it's not." And I Googled it, and I was like, "This has been out for a very long time. It's just a Switch port."
Although
I was like, "It's cool."
I will agree. Card Shark and Curse to Golf both also looked good.
Mhm.
They had a cool style. But yeah, everything else was I didn't really have any other ones that stood out to me. I don't think.
Yeah,
No.
overall, I think it was like like you said, an okay presentation. I think it ended really strangely. I kind of feel like they cut an announcement at the end.
It
that there
did
was
kind of feel like it
something
ended
bigger.
very abruptly. Like it was
Yeah,
just like,
it's
okay,
like,
that's
okay,
all
bye.
the games. Bye. Like, all right, shit. But I think maybe more good games than we gave it credit for. As we went through the list, some of these they do look really fun. So.
Yeah, and I think that's what, people are going to run into because it's that whole you're entering unfamiliar territory and there's not really too much to grasp onto or like connect with right away. But I think as people look back at some of these, maybe they'll stand out over time. Maybe people will pick them up and say, this ended up being a really great game, And I think that's just the nature of indies. You don't know which ones are going to really have that wild success that connects with tons and tons of people. But for the most part,
Yeah,
they
'cause it's
stick to
funny, right?
Yeah.
Sports Story came from Golf Story. We only knew what Golf Story was because it was in a Nintendo presentation, and it was like a weird concept to begin with. And then we played it, and now all we want to know about is Sports Story or Witchbrook, which is like the game that Chucklefish worked on after they'd signed on Stardew, and it has a similar style and stuff, and everyone's excited about that. And obviously, Hollow Knight kind of became a phenomenon.
Sure.
It's strange. We latch on to these indies and kind of blow them up, right? But if we don't try new things, they'll never be the next big one for everyone to get excited about.
You got to roll the dice on, a couple games before you find your Shovel Knights or your Hollow Knights or what have you.
But then there's there's sometimes those special ones that just stand out instantly before you even play them, like an Untitled Goose Game, and you're just like, it's like, wow, okay, I get it.
Everybody
but just
gets that
looking at it,
immediately. Yeah.
it's like, this is awesome. I want to play this straight away. When can I play it?
Yeah. I think that's the thing, right? Some games, like whether it's because the vision is so strong or the marketing is good, right? Like Eastward was a game like that where we're like, oh, whoa, like this one's got juice, right? And like I didn't even play it,
Not me neither, because I think other stuff was out around that time. It came out in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep picking it up here and there, and then getting distracted by other things. But it's pretty cool. I will say about Eastward real quickly. I was playing it in bed one night, and stuff was happening, and then I just turned to Jackie, and I was just like, something really bad is gonna happen right now. That game has some intense moments in it.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Never mind. It's fine. I'm not going to just start talking about random indie games that I was interested in that I haven't played yet, but there's a lot of them. Oh, one of them's on sale, baby. I'm picking this game up. It's Weird West. Weird West, everybody. I'm picking that game up.
Sounds good.
Anyway, let's jump into Nintendo's financials. We got the latest updates on, of course, if you've been following Nintendo, this is just what happens, right? At the end of every fiscal quarter, Nintendo is very forthcoming with a lot of data about how things did, and what were the big successes, what were the big failures. So this is covering the period from April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022, and a couple really interesting, tidbits, right? I think the main headline being that the Switch has officially sold 107 million units, making it the 5th best-selling console of all time, and finally surpassing the Nintendo Wii. So I guess the last time we talked about it, we were correct that it would get it by the end of the fiscal year. I believe at least Chuy made that as a hard claim. So yeah, I think unsurprising to see it continue that meteoric rise, but very, very cool to see. And
Do you think it's going to take over PS4 next year?
I was about to say, I think it will. The next two consoles on the list are, I think, in very reasonable striking distance. We have the PS4 with 116.9 million units, and then we have the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color for a combined 118.69 million units. So
what cheat putting them together.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I think it passes both of them.
Yeah,
in
They're
the
the
next
same
year.
console. We're gonna get the same app for them when they come to the Switch.
I'm
so-
telling
we
you,
are.
this is what they need to do, right? With the Switch, like we need to just keep the Switch family of consoles going, and you can outsell everything, because the next two are really far away, right? DS at 154 and PS2 at over 155 million. Those are big numbers. We're quite a ways away from that, and I think unless
it's another half again to hit the PS2,
and
isn't it?
I think unless the Switch pulls some Game Boy Color bullshit, where like the successor to the Switch is, like the same
Or
SKU.
the price is
Combined.
suddenly $99 and everyone wants one because
True.
it's so cheap
Maybe.
overnight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'd buy another one if that just happened.
So I
I
think
would just for the Joy-Cons.
the Switch
Yeah,
clearly has cards left to
exactly.
play. We're definitely going to get more and more Switch sales, and I think there are going to be things that lead to bumps, like things like Breath of the Wild 2 and what have you. So yeah, I think we're hardly dead in the water, but I wouldn't be surprised if the next couple of years like we see a bit of a slowdown, as like people are hungry for something new. But remains to be seen. But I think at the very least it'll top out as the number 3 of all time, which is pretty good. Pretty damn good.
I think it's going to reach that for sure at this point, within the next 2 years, if not next year. Because I went through and I just like was interested. I way backed machine their numbers to look at all of them to see like the end of fiscal year numbers. And this, even though this year was a drop off from last year, so last year 28.82 million consoles sold, and then this year 23.06 million consoles sold, and that's still the second best year for the Switch out of all of these.
And it's worth pointing out in the in the financial report, they attributed some of that loss because of the semiconductor shortage that's been a problem. It says here, whereas the March 2020 release of Animal Crossing New Horizons was a major driver of hardware sales last fiscal year, sales this fiscal year were affected by shortages of semiconductor components and other parts, resulting in a 20% decrease year on year. So to have a 20% decrease and still have it be the second best year in the console's history, I don't really feel like we have major signs of things slowing down, and we know that there's a lot of major bits of software coming up between Splatoon 3, the next Pokemon, sequel to Breath of the Wild. So those are all things that could really continue that success. And even if we start seeing diminishing returns, like if you're still selling 20 million a year and they claim that we have multiple years ahead of us in the Switch's life cycle, like
Yeah.
Maybe it will.
I mean,
Maybe it will chase that high number.
Even if it cuts in half for next year's sales, it's still going to surpass the Game Boy and be third.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I could see them giving the Switch a couple more years, maybe 2-3 more years, but having that next one out and selling alongside it, and it's sort of like it's the Pro model for now, but then it's going to become the only model at some point, and the other ones are going to fade away.
I mean, I think even if they do a hard pivot to like a Switch 2 and cut the price of the original Switch, it'll still sell, right? Like it'll.
I don't think they need to. I don't think it needs that hard branding, because I feel like for the foreseeable future they want all new games come out to run on the 107 million Switches that they've sold, and to have that hard cut makes it seem like, oh, this is the Switch 2, and you can only play Switch 2 games or Switch games on this one, but you can't play them on the old one.
I just don't think they can
want
do
to capitalize
that,
on that.
Like, I really don't. I think the amount of time that they can justifiably limit whatever comes out on whatever the Switch successor is by the original Switch is gotta be. I don't think it can be any longer than what we see on PS4 and PS5, right? Where like, or Xbox, to Xbox, where it's like,
that's at 2 years at this year. Like we're gonna see.
But this year is the year where we're not seeing
out.
those games on PS4 anymore. Like,
well, we are, because God of War is going to come out on PS4.
Yeah, and that's going to be the last
PS5
one
game as well.
I don't think there's another.
I think it will be.
I don't think there's another major release that comes out on last gen hardware at this point.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I think 2 years once the new one's out,
right.
Maybe 3 years at a push is that life cycle, which is what they're talking about with the 2 years that they've got. Chuy, you mentioned your Wayback Machine. Did you Wayback Machine the Wii U statistics? Because Stephen Totillo over at Axios did, and they changed. They sold another 100,000 copies of New Super Mario Brothers U this year, apparently. And reported the statistics.
That's
strange. No, I didn't look at the Wii U stuff. But yeah, I mean, I just looked at the Switch ones, looked at those numbers. I took the Switch was strange because it was still when it came out, it was still part of the fiscal year just before that first like full year of the Switch, right? So within that time frame, March 3rd to March 31st of 2017, they sold 2.74 million, and then the next year they start doing the different numbers where it's like 2017 to 2018 was 15.05. 2018 to 2019 was 16.95 million, and then 2019 to 2020 was 21.03 million, and then it peaked here at 2020 to 2021 with 28.82 million, and then we're starting to see the drop off this year with 23.06 million.
But yeah, I mean, I think even if we see, because what they've said,
like I said, if it cuts in half, like it's still going to be third best-selling console of all time.
And they've said that they see it as a 10-year life cycle, right? So imagine we have 2 more years of it being the primary console, or like ish, right? And then another 2 years of it being price reduced and sold like the 3DS was. It's possible that it hits number 1.
Yeah, I also feel like there's stuff they haven't capitalized on, right? We could have like an OLED model of the Switch Lite at some point. We could maybe have like a home-only model. There's a bunch of things they could do. We obviously don't have a Pro model at some point.
Or if you're correct, right? And like it is just going to be a Pro model that ends up being the main Switch, and they're going to just continue the Switch branding and not have a hard cut.
Which was the 3DS and 2DS,
Sure.
Like they've done it before where it was like, all right, this is the new 3DS, new 2DS, that's all that we have for sale. Everything going forward just works on both of these. And they've kind of shown like they're not afraid to make stuff stop working on the older consoles too. Like There were 3 new 3DS games, right? Finished one recently, the Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. How does Monolith Soft do it? I don't know, but I mean, there's those few games that aren't gonna cross over, I think, at that point. But at that point, there'll be like, well, get the Switch Pro, get the next Switch, whatever you need to play these. I don't think they have to care as much as, I don't know.
I just feel like first-party titles, they're gonna try their hardest to get it on those 107 million
That's fair.
units that they've got.
Yeah,
currently.
but I think you can only do that for so long, right? Like the Switch is already showing its age, and like I think something like Breath of the Wild 2 is probably pretty limited by the technology of the Switch, and you know you got to imagine that their developers are feeling a little bit tired of that because the Switch wasn't contemporary when it came out, and it came out 5 years ago, right? Like, you know. Steve, you mentioned it on the Flip Screen podcast this week. If you never listened to our sister show, Flip Screen Games podcast, we had an episode about another episode about the Steam Deck, and you were commenting on how you were really enjoying having more power and having more, the ability to play games like something like Far Cry, right? That's like requires a little bit more under the hood, and like we know that the Switch couldn't handle something like that, and that is increasingly frustrating, especially when there is a brand new piece of tech that, a lot of people don't have their hands on, but like we do now. And like, I have a sense of like, oh wow, like the Switch could be doing more, and
I wonder if it's like a price point problem as well that they're trying to hit, because the Steam Deck is a significantly more expensive console than the Switch.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a case of if they want that power, people are gonna have to pay for it, and that's why you position it initially as like a premium pro model. It does this. It can play Breath of the Wild at 60 frames per second. All of your games will be upscaled to 4K, and then that quietly becomes the standard model, which I think is what they were planning on doing with the OLED as well. Which I think is why it's like brackets OLED model, like really weird branding. I could see them doing, Switch Pro or whatever they want to call it, new Switch, Super Switch, that becomes the standard model eventually.
I wonder how much they're positioning as like they've proven that people are okay being like multi-Switch households. Like a lot of people have more than one Switch in their place and stuff. And I wonder if that's gonna, just benefit them in the long run with this. Like maybe people will feel less I don't know. Maybe that people will feel like, oh yeah, I don't mind getting this new Switch that plays all the newer stuff, and slowly fade out the other things. Maybe they've gotten to the point where they can do that, but I mean, I don't think we'll know until we're actually there.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talked a lot about it, right? Like it works for the cell phone market, but like, will it work for the console market? That's the question. And I mean,
it's those payment plans, man. People are like, oh, $30 a month, I could do that.
Yeah,
I know. I got suckered into it with my Xbox. It was so easy because they bundled Game Pass in with it as well. So it just felt like nothing. It was just like, okay, it's another 15 on top of Game Pass. Yeah, why not?
So moving over to the software side of things, they had a banner fucking year for software. 822.18 million units sold. Led by a couple of very strong releases. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl sold a combined 14.65 million. Pokemon Legends Arceus sold 12.64.
That's the correct game to buy.
I know, it's insane that.
How much is like the next two gonna sell? Like if it's
so
combined?
much.
Oh my god,
so much.
Because there's two
If
copies.
if it draws from Arceus, then I think people are gonna love it.
Yeah, definitely. Mario Party Superstars, 6.88 million. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, 3.91. Yeah, where is the DLC? Come on!
Give us the DLC.
Give us the DLC, folks.
GameCube maps. Make it happen.
And then the crazy thing, and I mean this, it never ceases to amaze, but like, Jesus Christ, does Nintendo know how to sell software over a long period of time?
Yeah. But the thing is, though, like we haven't got the Metroid Dread numbers down here, but only 2.9 million. I was really surprised.
Still best-selling Metroid, though.
Metroid's niche.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. Like I just want everyone to play that game. It was so good.
It is so good.
There's still 2.9 million copies of a $60 2D game.
Of the fifth game in a series like that follows a continual story too.
Yeah.
Like that's hard to do.
None of the others are available on Nintendo's current platform legally.
Outside of
to play.
Super.
A lot going against it for sure. But yeah, some of the legacy titles had just insane numbers. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 9.94 million units, which means it sold better than every other game that they put out combined, like except for Pokemon. Or not a game that came out, but like on that top performers list, right? Like that's nuts. How that game is 10 years old. How are there people that don't own a copy? I don't understand it. Animal Crossing New Horizons selling 6.01 million units. And I forgot to say, for Mario Kart, that puts it at 45.33 million units sold to date. Animal Crossing's at 38.64, which is, again,
Number
truly
two.
wild.
Number
crazy,
two still.
Yeah,
I
number
feel
2
like
in
Mario-
2 years, though. That's like,
Yeah.
it's nuts. It's got to be like the fastest selling game ever. Like, it's so crazy.
I feel like Mario Kart 8 cheats a little bit as well because they're in them with the holiday bundle that they do every single year. Because like my dad has a copy of Mario Kart. He's probably played it like once. He didn't really want
Still
it.
got
It
it,
was part
though.
of the bundle that came for like the Black Friday deal that they do every single
Hey,
year.
man, whatever works, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a couple other little tidbits. Sales of titles from other software publishers grew when combined with those published by Nintendo, with a total of 39 titles sold over 1 million units in the last fiscal period. That's huge. That's great. Speaks to the fact that there's a healthy audience of folks that are actively looking for new games to play. So, I mean, that's great for the health of the platform. And yeah, software sales grew 1.8% year on year, which is, it means it's, again, I think it's the highest selling year in terms of software sold, which speaks to the fact that even though maybe there was some issues with being able to get a Switch, everybody who's got one is playing and buying quite a few games a year, which is, that's where you want to be.
I did want to say
ahead.
about like the top selling games too, because I was looking at the list and kind of thinking back about some conversations we've had about DLC recently, and I'm like, dude, all of these top 5 games on here in order: Mario Kart 8, Animal Crossing, Super Smash Bros., Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Pokemon Sword and Shield, all of them paid DLC plans. And then you get to the next half and you're like, oh, there's a drop off right there. Mario Odyssey, where's their paid DLC? Super Mario Party is way up on the list. No DLC for that either.
I'm
Pokemon
fine
Brilliant
with that
Diamond and
'cause it wasn't
Pearl,
great.
Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and then Ring Fit Adventure. But this list has shifted a bit too, and some that have been on the top sellers before has gotten paid DLC too. So I imagine they're looking at these games and thinking like, okay, which ones are worth adding to like at least some extra thing. But I think
Ring
probably the
Fit's got to be ripe for the picking at some point. At the very least, if it's not DLC for Ring Fit, more software for that controller.
For the device. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like you sold us this thing and just give us more things to use it for. I was sure that we were going to get it in Switch Sports, but we didn't. And
Not yet,
I
at
just
least.
I hope we get something for it because it's on my predictions list. So I really hope we get something for it.
So
I hope that it happens next year.
Yeah, me too. Then to close things out on the software side of things, they did give an update on the mobile business, and I think it is clearly showing a trend, right, that Nintendo is not interested in staying in the mobile business, which we knew. They said as much after the success of Animal Crossing, that they see the future in investing in big premium home console experiences that continue to sell year over year, which has obviously paid major dividends for them here on the Switch. But
let's be honest, like we wouldn't even have the Mario Kart 8 DLC if it wasn't for the mobile game that they've invested in. So it's kind of wild to me that it's sort of like circling back.
I think they found a way to make that content work for them in a way that was more lucrative, right? Because people are buying and playing Mario Kart 8. People were not really playing Mario Kart Tour as much as they probably would have liked, which makes sense, right? Mobile gaming is, I think pretty much inherently inferior, right? With very rare exception. And Nintendo has made efforts, but, I think pretty much every one of the games feels like a cheap facsimile of the real experience, right? Which is what people who care about Nintendo's IP really want. And I think they're seeing that, They said that the IP-related income totaled 53 billion yen, which is a decrease of 6.5 year on year. So you can see that the financial returns are starting to decline because they're not paying as much attention to the space.
Most of that was coming from Pokemon Go anyway. So it's kind of like, if you're shutting down most of your other games...
We don't know. Pokemon Go wouldn't be included in that. Nintendo doesn't have a hand in Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I think that's most of the money goes probably toward Niantic and Pokemon Company for that.
Yeah. I don't think Nintendo has any credit on Pokemon Go.
Oh, I thought they did.
I will say, though, I'm glad they're pulling out so they can cancel Pikmin Bloom, and I can get that prediction.
Yeah. Do they consider that a game, though? I don't know if they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they
do. Probably. Miyamoto called it a game.
So it says Pokemon Go is made in collaboration with Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. So
I was sure they got a big old slice from that every single time someone bought something.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I imagine eventually it'll just be Pokemon Go, Fire Emblem, and maybe Animal Crossing running. And even then, I don't know how long Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing
seemed to be the big driver for them that wasn't, Pokemon. So, but anyway, the last thing that we'll touch on is something we've kind of already talked around a little bit, right? But Nintendo had a statement on the transition to the next console generation, which I thought was pretty interesting. So Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa said that the company basically that it's a major concern for them, right? That transition, that the company plans to alleviate the risks of like having to kind of reset that 100+ million user base by building quote unquote long-term relationships with its users, partly via Nintendo accounts and by using its IP outside of gaming. So, a couple of the articles that I read that were talking about this was specifically from a Q&A that Video Games Chronicle had translated. So shout out to them. In that, they call out the fact that like Nintendo has had a pretty consistent problem in terms of following up their major successes, right? The Wii and the DS were, their number one selling handheld and their number one selling home console. And then, both of them had straight successors, right? The Wii U, obviously a major flop at 13.5 million. And then the 3DS, which I think anybody would say was a success, only 75 million units, right? Just about half of what the original DS sold. And I mean, you can even go further back, right? The Game Boy, number 2 bestseller, Game Boy Advance, quite a bit, less. So they've kind of consistently had this problem of having a console that really captures people's attention and then following it up with something that struggles to, kind of recapture the magic. There's a quote here that I thought was interesting from Furukawa, who said, the question of whether we will be able to just as smoothly transition from the Nintendo Switch to the next generation of hardware is a major concern for us. Based on our experiences with the Wii, Nintendo DS, and other hardware, it's very clear that one of the major obstacles is how to easily transition from one hardware to the next. And I think that does speak to what we've been talking about and like how does Nintendo combat this? It's something that they're clearly thinking about. And I wonder if it is just trying to have a Switch, for lack of a better example, like a Switch Boy Color, right? Where it's like, we're just continuing this generation with a better unit with more options and, limited amounts of quote unquote exclusive software at the jump, and then making it so that eventually there are several games that only play on the Color, right? I wonder if that's the path forward, because, one of the things that he said was that the reason that the Switch was so smooth was because they were able to focus their efforts on one device. They were able to create a roadmap of really, really highly anticipated and interesting, valuable software that's continued to sell year over year. Those are all things that Nintendo should be able to continue and replicate that success. I guess the question is if people bite, right? And like, how do you make it so that that's not a concern?
I mean, another major concern I think for people is the continuation of their libraries, right? That was a painful process from Wii to Wii U, and moving everything that was like a lot tied to your console from Wii U to Switch. There was no way to bring anything over. It was
Oh, there
basically
was. It was just expensive. You had to buy the games again.
yeah, it's like buy it again. It's like a fresh cut, and if you want to play
Uh-huh.
it, you've got to start again. I don't think people are gonna accept that anymore. I
Mm-mm.
think you need a way to bring your libraries, and I think everything that runs on the Switch currently needs to run on the next one. I think that's the key thing. Um, and they were good about that, right? They've always been good about that since the GameCube era. The GameCube games played on the Wii. Wii games could play on the Wii U.
Game
It
Boy
was really
games
that
played
like
on Game
hard
Boy
cut.
Advance.
Yeah, Game Boy
DS
games played
games,
on Game Boy Advance, Game
DS to
Boy and Game Boy
3DS.
Color. Yeah, so they've always been good about that with their physical games. It's just been their digital experience that's always been a little bit rough. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they can probably get that now with the like modernization of the eShop as to what it is. I think it's very
Yeah.
simple to log in and re-download everything.
Hmm.
And that
And we've seen
then I
that
think
both like not just like on the eShop on our consoles itself, but like also on their website too. Everything's becoming a lot better connected. Their
Yeah.
whole My
yeah,
Nintendo overhaul has been like fully integrated into their shop on their website. So
Not to mention there's less
like
weird
I've bought
proprietary
games.
shit, right? Like that's like the Switch is just a screen that plays games, and
Yeah.
it
mhm.
doesn't have a dual screen, or like it supports motion controls, but that's not the main thing. Like it can just you can very much see how a successor can just continue the success rather than being like, "Oh,
Mhm.
here's the next gimmick." Let's pivot to that now.
I mean, there
Mhm.
was that rumor of another input method or something, or another like interactivity thing. Do you remember that we like discussed before? But I feel
Mm.
like at this point, it's all rumors. I think really they know what they need to do, which is essentially just make a more powerful version of what you've already got. And if you can get the chips from Nvidia in order to do that, I think you can just put it out and it'll be successful. I
All
don't
I
think you really
need,
need to
Mhm.
do
right? That's
much
all I
else,
want.
right?
I want a
Yeah, it's
stronger
literally
Switch
all
with a better
anyone wants.
screen, and it loads
Yeah.
Well,
faster.
I mean, you
And
you put the OLED screen on it, everyone's happy
I
anyway.
love
It
that
should be the
one.
same screen.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I mentioned before too, like the big thing with Nintendo is like they like to design their consoles around the experiences they want to bring now. But now I'm just like, well, we've seen Ring Fit. Like that's just there's the new controller, there's the Ring Con with it. Like you brought a unique motion exercise experience to this console that can also just do all the other base things that consoles should do without, being completely dedicated to any one gimmick. So yeah, they just need to play with those more, play with the tech around what exists instead of like creating a whole new thing for us to buy and get into.
right. And I do think that's the plan, right? Like there is a quote I found from Furukawa that's from speak a conversation with investors in February, where he said there are nearly 100 million annual playing users, and going forward, it's important to consider how we can maintain and expand that number. This will also be essential when we consider our plan for the next hardware platform. So I really think that is how they're thinking about things, that they want you to have a relationship with your Nintendo account, right? And that whatever you're playing on, it doesn't matter, right? As long as it's the Nintendo device with your Nintendo account, you're
Hmm.
going to have your history carry with you, I think, ideally, right? Um, although,
I hope so. And I really hope friend codes at some point go away and it's like, that's not how I interact with people. I feel like if they could revamp the operating system a little bit more, add some more features, but that's stuff that could come
themes,
to Switch and the successor, it doesn't have to be one or the other. We don't need a new experience on the new console. I think the software's fine as it is. If the UI ran at a higher resolution than 720p, then that would be lovely. And if we had some more key core features that we see on other modern consoles, I think that would also be nice. But that's something that they could launch alongside the new console, but backport to the old console as well. So it's a cohesive experience when people do boot up their new Switch. Everything moves over. It's exactly the same experience. It's just like moving from your old Switch to your Switch OLED, or from your old Switch to your Switch Lite, or to your Animal Crossing version, or whatever version you've upgraded to, and then now you're moving over to the Switch Pro, or whatever they want to call it. And I think if they can get that experience right and nail it, and they nail the branding, because I think that's where the Wii U went wrong, they need to come up with a name that people understand, and I think Pro is probably the one to go for. If I'm there in the like focus group, I'm just like, well, I understand what Pro means, because PlayStation uses it, iPhone uses it, everything like
Mhm.
seemingly Pro is just it's the more premium version. It's the like higher performance version. Like that's the one to go for in my book anyway.
I think that, or
Yeah,
I think
and
you.
you've already.
No, go ahead.
I
Go
was gonna say real quick, and you've already got the marketing right there. You got your pros and your cons. You put your Joy-Con on your Switch right there.
Yeah, yeah. I
Sells
think the other
itself.
option is to just go with the number thing, right? Like I recognize that there is an element of, oh, you're segmenting the audience, this and that, but like, I mean, dude, it works for PlayStation, right? Like,
Yeah, but I think maybe they're looking at the figures as well, and it's just like, does Switch 2, does that make it seem like a hard cut? Does it make it seem like I can't play Switch
right.
2 games on the Switch?
Yeah.
Does that then, the sales figures mean that this isn't the Switch, it's the Switch 2, and the sales figures are kind of reported separately of like
Sure.
Switch 2 unit sales versus Switch unit
I think
sales?
it's a lot easier to get somebody to buy a 2 than a something new though, right? Cuz like you talked about the
Than
Wii
a
U.
series.
Right. I mean, sure. But like I think with like the Wii U, there was a lot of people who were like, "Oh, so it's an add-on for the Wii? Like it's its own console?
Yeah,
Like what is
but I feel like, say for example, the PS4 Pro, people bought that, they knew what it was,
Sure.
and they bought it anyway, even though it wasn't a successor, but they were like, oh, okay, cool, but it can do 4K
I
checkerboarded,
just
and it
I
can do all of
think
that stuff.
I think the Switch's life cycle has been too long for that at this point. Like I
And not according to Nintendo, like they seem still are saying like we're halfway through the life cycle, and it's just like,
they're saying that.
are you really? What does
Right.
that mean?
I don't believe that though, right? Like I think a new Switch is imminent. I think it's going to happen within the next 2
Yeah,
years.
but I think, but is the Switch name gone? Like, are they
No.
done with this just being the Switch
No.
and not the Switch 2? I think that's probably what they mean by halfway through the life cycle. Not that everyone from 2016 is going to have their original console, but that people who like the Switch will stay with the Switch and they'll buy another Switch. And whatever version the latest version is, I think that they'll buy it because I'm ready to buy another
Well,
one. I'm
I
putting off at this point buying a new set of Joy-Cons because I need a new set of Joy-Cons, and I'm just like, I don't
mhm.
want to buy a set if a new Switch is announced and I buy another Switch and it's just like it comes with a set of Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
like ultimately I think you're correct. But I think at the very least it needs to be like some more similar to what Xbox has done, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like if you're still on the Xbox One, like that's fine. Like you can still play Halo and you can still do this and you can still do that, but the Series X is what we're focused on, and that's the like I think we're at the point where like what succeeds the Switch needs to be a major step forward that unlocks new potential for developers. Because
Well, I think
you can't have whatever the successor is to Breath of the Wild 2 be made on the same hardware that you made Breath of the Wild on. I just don't think you can do that.
I think Furukawa snuck something in that's gonna alleviate the challenge of like having a little bit more recognition about your hardware and everything. And it's just that little comment he makes about just like using the IP outside of gaming. And we're seeing that already through the Nintendo World theme parks and that sort of thing,
The
where
Mario
I'm just
movie.
like, Mario movie, Nintendo World theme parks, and I'm remembering specifically like there's this special like little watch thing, right? When you go to Nintendo World in Japan and you can scan it into things and connect it with your like My Nintendo and stuff, and I'm like all of that stuff kind of targeting people outside of gaming and that sort of stuff. That's just like that's recognition right there. Like that's your marketing and that's like your brand awareness and that's just like making it more accessible and easier for people to be able to follow stuff even if they're not in that whole hardware ecosystem and everything. Like once people are coming in, I feel like they're going to be less intimidated by the research it takes to find out like, oh, what thing should I buy, what's the latest and greatest thing, and what should I be wary of with the older models if that's a better option for me. So I don't know, I feel like they're taking steps to just have this recognition that I don't think they've had in a while. Like I'd say the early 90s and everything with the Super Nintendo and that sort of stuff was just like everybody knew about it. Everybody knew this thing was hot, and people knew Mario and Zelda, and they had their cartoons and little live action movies that came out, right? And so I think they're bringing back that era and just the recognition that Nintendo had at that point. And I don't know, it's a huge investment that they're making, but I'm sure it's just that's how they're looking at it. They're looking at it as like we are everywhere at this point. Like, just buy a Switch. That's it.
Sure. So I think we'll leave it there for today. Let us know what you thought about the Indie World announcements or any of the financial results that stuck out to you, where you think the future of the Switch is. Write in and let us know. And remember, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find our Discord, our social media, our email address. However you choose to write in, we appreciate you tuning in and being a part of the show. And we'll catch you next week for another episode of Nintendo Noise. Take it easy.